Welcome to Art with Kendra. In today's video, I'm going to be painting a simple sunset. To start, I'm going to put a base layer of a nice gradient, and then I'm going to add a little bit of texture, which will be like the kind of sky, cloudiness, that kind of thing, atmosphere. I'm going to start with yellow, transition into peach, and then finally use purple, maybe even a dab of blue in there at the very top. And then when I'm doing my kind of soft, kind of cloudy texture, I'm going to throw in a little bit of white as well. All right, I'm just going to go ahead. I think I'll just start with these colors just directly on the canvas, actually. Here we go. So I'm going to start with my yellow. Then I'm going to be moving into my pink, but I'm just going to start to get this on the canvas first. I want this to go up about halfway here. So I'll scoop off the extra. A little overzealous with my paint. Now you'll see that the cardboard background comes through. I actually kind of like that. Cardboard is a very natural underpainting color. It's brown, so I'm just getting that. There we go. Yeah, it has a nice earthy tone to it. All right, so now I'm introducing the peach. I'm just going to use half my brush here. The bottom half, the empty half, is going to sit on the yellow, and then I'm going to introduce the new color at the top. And this method usually gives you a smoother gradient because you don't get those big chunks of paint coming out the bottom and kind of giving you those unwanted streaks. Now in this painting, that's not a huge deal because we're going to be adding streaks, but just as a general gradient, I like to kind of use the top of my brush to add the color and use the bottom of my brush as a blender. All right, I'm getting pretty close to the top here. And I'm going to introduce that purple. Now the purple is very dark and I'm a little worried it's going to overpower, so I'm just going to kind of trickle it in on the very top here. So yeah, I'm just going to use the corner of my brush here. Again, that empty part is going to go into the pink or the peach. There we go. Nice, natural, soft kind of sunset colors here. Nothing too vibrant today. We're just going for a muted sunset. You could use hot pinks and, you know, really make this pop, but that peach color kind of neutralizes things in the middle. I think I want my purple to have just a little bit more prominence here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more. And then we're going to let it dry, and then we're going to add another layer here. And that second layer is actually going to have a lot of texture in it. All right, so that should be good for our background. It's not a perfect gradient, but I'm not worried about that texture in the middle there. So I'm going to let this dry. Okay, so we have a dry background now. You do want it to be 100% dry. When you're layering paint, if it's 90% dry, sometimes you can lift the bottom layer. So we have a nice dry canvas. That should keep this at least as our base. So no matter what, this is the bottom layer. Like if we end up missing a spot, we still have this nice sunset background here. And again, the background gradient isn't perfect, but that doesn't matter because this is just an underpainting. So we're going to be doing the same kind of thing here, but we're not going to be blending as much. We're going to transition from yellow up into our purple. I've added some more colors to my plate here. So I've added blue and a very hot pink. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that, but I wanted it out just in case. So what I'm going to do is I'm always going to be adding now with the corner of my brush. And I'm just going to start to kind of drop in these colors, but I'm not going to overly blend them. So I do want them to blend together, but I'm not going to force it like I was before. I don't mind these streaks coming in. I do want a little bit of a white glow in the middle. So I'm going to drop in some white here. You can see it's dry. I'm just doing a dry brush method. Didn't add water or anything. Nice and simple. I go in just along the sides here with a little bit of that peach. Now, cardboard does tend to dry pretty quickly because it absorbs paint. So you'll have to move a little faster if you're trying the cardboard method with me here. But yeah, there we go. I'm just kind of diluting that yellow. I felt like the yellow was maybe a little too aggressive. Bring in a bit more white. So you'll notice I'm also not cleaning my brush. There we go. And just a nice light white center here. Just using the corner of my brush to kind of get that hazy look. Now I'm going to come into the top. So I do want to add this, but I think I wanted just a hint of that hot pink. So I'm going to aggressively just kind of throw a dab in. There we go. Again, just a nice light layer. I'm not over mixing. I don't want it to be a gradient. I want it to have a little bit of texture, and I could do this all day. All right, I did like that pink in there though, right? Just a little bit, just kind of warmed things up there. All right, now I'm gonna move into that purple. I think I'm gonna add a bit of blue though. Again, just using that corner of my brush here, just to kind of drag it in. Blend with the damp paint below it, and move up to the top here. Get a little bit more of that purple in there. There we go. So just being really soft and not, you know, not mixing my purple with my yellow, that sort of a thing. I'm going to give my brush a clean here. And I think I'll just add a bit more color just in the same way until I'm happy with it, basically. I could do this all day. Go. That's feeling a bit better, I think. Maybe just a little bit more right here. Just that little bright center. All right, I think that's feeling good. I'm gonna put just a hint of purple at the bottom. I know I said I wouldn't, but I think I need just a little bit down there. All right, I think that feels pretty nice. Nice soft sky, so I'm gonna give that a blow dry, and then we'll start to add in our silhouette. For the next step, I'm going to add texture. So I kind of want a damaged brush like this. I wish I had one that was a little bit bigger. Like this one kind of works, but you can see the end isn't quite as spread out. I really like the look of this one. So I'll probably go in with this one. I might throw this one in just a little bit. And we're going to be using black now. Nice thing about a silhouette painting is your final layer is usually mostly black anyway. I might throw in some highlights, but yeah, more or less it's going to be black. So I'm just going to add black here. Now, when I'm doing a stamping technique, I don't want too much paint on my brush. So I'm going to add some and kind of tap some off like that. And then I'm just going to kind of go like this. Just tap, 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 tap. Nice, gentle taps. And this is going to give us kind of a tree texture. You know, we can imagine what this is. Like, I'm not sure if it's definitely just trees or if there's, you know, grass or hills. But I'm just kind of imagining this texture here. Like bushes, maybe. Just to keep it interesting, we can see the light traveling through this texture, making it thicker on the bottom, because if it was bushes or trees, it would get a little bit more sparse closer to the top, right? Twist your brush around so you don't get a repeated pattern. There we go. And I usually like to have a flow that kind of goes up and down. So over here, I'm gonna add a bit as well. Just kind of stamping it in. I call this stamping. Nice and thick along the bottom. Now here I'm going to kind of dive down a little bit, a little low point here. I'm going to add some phone poles and maybe a water tower. I live in the country, so we get a lot of kind of that stuff here. Silhouettes of phone poles, all that fun stuff. Now this texture is getting a little bit too predictable, so I'm going to try to reshape the brush. I'm just kind of grinding it down to see if I can get something a bit different. There we go. You could kind of see it starting to get repetitive there, so by just jamming my brush down, I kind of changed the shape of it a bit. Really, it's changing as we go here. It's evolving just like the painting is. Okay, and maybe I'll add just like a little outer area here, like a little section that's just coming out there. Like maybe it's a little extra tree or something in that area. All right, I think that feels pretty nice. It's a base texture, pretty abstract so far, but I think we're getting there. You'll start to see it come together in just a minute here. So now we're going to add our foam poles. Now an interesting thing about adding something, we're going to be using loose perspective here. Our vanishing point, I think we'll put it pretty low, like we'll put it down here somewhere. This is the line of the vanishing point. This is the horizon line here. You can see there's not a lot on the top. So the foam poles are going to go down into about this space, and everything will kind of recede into that area. So I'm just going to make a little mental note. Maybe I'll put a little dab of white right here. There we go. Just to remind me of where my vanishing point is. So everything is going to kind of go in that direction. And everything in the foreground is going to be much bigger than things in the background. Now the spacing between the poles is also interesting. So you can find the spacing by doing this little trick here. I'll show you this quick perspective trick. So if you create a box within your perspective grid that you kind of create, and then you put an X from corner to corner of that box, so the box is a rectangle shape, and you go corner to corner, what you do is you basically split that box in two and you find your center point. So that helps you to know how far apart your poles need to be, because you can then divide that again, and it'll give you increments that are, you know, evenly spaced out going back in perspective. And it's always amazing how big that front increment is. People don't think about that, and they usually put their poles too close together, but in reality you would have quite a bit of space between those first two, and then very quickly they kind of blend together. So I'm going to try to reflect that here today. I'm not going to measure it out, but I am going to use that knowledge as I'm painting. So I'm going to use this little flat brush here, and I'm just going to place my first pole quite high. I'm going to go right about there. I might even go here with it. I don't want to go too close to the edge because I eventually want to add that center point, but let's just start with that here. There we go. So I'm just trying to do a nice line. I'm going to thicken that up. That's kind of my guide. I don't normally tape my work down, but because I'm using cardboard, I did feel like I had to here. There we go. So I'm just trying to get that nice and thick here. Yeah, usually I would be turning my painting around. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe these are like the ones in Saskatchewan that are just like, you know, big old logs that are kind of thrown together. Not all foam poles are perfectly pristine. It's really interesting, actually. And this is going to go like this. There we go. Sometimes you have little things on it like this. You know, these little things like this. So I'm just going to dab a few little things on like that, and we'll add some cords later on. All right, so there's one of our foam poles. So now we're going to add the next one. So we're going to be looking at this line right here, going down to that point. So the next one should be pretty short compared to this one. So I'm going to go about here, and I'm going to drop it in. Now this one's going to be slightly thinner. Oops, I got a little bit wiggly on my line there. So we do want it to be thinner, maybe even by half. If you look at the amount that it is smaller height-wise, you can kind of imagine that also width-wise. There we go. Not perfect. We're definitely going for those Saskatchewan foam poles that I've seen when I do my drives across Canada. There we go. And then we're going to add a smaller, again, by about half. We want to make sure that we're being consistent here. Little thing like that. Trying to make it nice and thin. And I want these little dots to be there, but not as aggressive. Maybe just a couple little ones there. I haven't used a small brush yet, but I think I need to transition into that small brush because those lines were getting tricky. I'll try this one. It's a little wrecked, but I think it'll do the trick. So the next one needs to be probably about like this. Again, we're going down, 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 down. So we have to have a nice thin one, much closer this time. And that might be too thick. And then we're going to have this little piece here, and then we may not see any more detail than that. And then we're going to have another one here. I'm going to have to switch to a smaller brush pretty soon. I'm going a little bit off my vanishing point. It's kind of moved over to this area here. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because these are about to get like minuscule here. Okay, now we're going to go and do a smaller one yet. This one's so small it might not even show up. The top part might not even show up. And eventually it'll just kind of fade into the bottom here. There we go. I'll do just a hint of that. Now it's time for those nice little, the wires that are attached to the poles. So again, I'm going to try to do a nice fine brush and just pull a light little line through. You might want to add just a bit of water to your paint because this is going to be like a detail, and if your paint is thick, that can be quite hard. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to loop down. And loop. And then a really fine loop here. Just the tip of the brush. Loop, 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 loop. There we go. A couple more of those. So I'm pressing a little bit harder up here. Just a little bit. I'll do this side next. Loop, and then up here, and then it goes down, and then up, and then down, and then up, and then we kind of trail it off. And I'll just do a couple more. It's okay if they cross over. So if they are going to cross over, try to have them cross over somewhere that isn't like this. That would have created a tension point. So it's going to go down much deeper and up and down and down. And they can kind of fade out again. We're not going to be there. This one's going to cross over here and be really low. There we go. And down and down and down. Looks like I'm missing one here. And let's see, we have 3. No, we need one more on this side. So we'll go here. And we'll go nice and low. I think the lowness is nice, crossing through the other one, and then just kind of letting the paint trail off there. All right, so there we have our foam poles. Now we still need this to go back to the foam pole. It's not starting here, right? So I have to go from this point, and this has to be slightly thicker, and then I have to go up in the same kind of pattern. So I'm going to imagine it going down, and up, down, and up, down, and up like that. Coming towards us, so it's getting closer, down, and up, down, and up. There we go. So now we have that one kind of going right off the page there, which is really nice. It's pulling us in, which I'm excited about. And honestly, I kind of think that looks quite nice. I see I got a little dot there, but that's okay. When you get a little dot on your page, turn it into a bird, turn it into something. So we're not going to repaint that area because it will never match that gradient again. So we're going to do something a bit different. But I did want to put in a water tower, so I think we can still go ahead with that. And I'm going to go back to this brush here. I like it. It's nice and small and controlled. And then where do I want to put it? I have a little water stain there, so I think I'll put it here. I wouldn't want to center it. So my water tower is going to be, let's see here. Just trying to think of the size of it here. Oh, I kind of like that. Feels like light's coming through. I think I'm going to leave those kind of dry brush strokes there. I'm imagining the light is coming this way because we have that brightness in the sky, so I'll leave those strokes there for texture. Just kind of fade it out like that. There we go. I like that, like that. Makes it feel nice and round too. Then we're going to want our kind of top part. So that's going to go about there. Now this might be a little bit too aggressive of a brush. I might have to switch to a smaller brush here. It's the plateau it's on. And yeah, I think I do have to move into a smaller brush again. So I'll use this one here. Just need a little more control, I think. So now I'm going to do my top. Just going to touch down there, and fill that in. Now, there's usually a little bit of a ball at the bottom. So we'll go like that. I'm not too worried about that. That would be more a shadow. And then I think we go straight down from that. Again, I wish I could turn my page, but I have everything taped down, so it's a little tricky. Straight down, then I think we have some pretty aggressive legs. We go up. These are holding water up, so they'd have to be a little bit thick. And then this one here. Like that. And then there's more than 2 legs. So we'd probably have like another set visible back here. So we'll go like this. And then maybe one that's just like right beside this one. There we go. A little platform here. Where people would, I assume, do maintenance or something. Just a little bit of texture there. Yeah, and then I believe we are gonna have some connecting things here. And then they would connect like that. There we go. All right, I think that works. And yeah, there's a little bit more we could add if I get my super tiny brush back. Let's see. Just nice delicate lines, just using the very tip of your brush. You don't need to put these lines in. I like details, so this is like a thing I enjoy. I'm assuming these are cables. I'm just not too sure what I'm drawing here, but I think it looks pretty cool. I am seeing them in my reference. I just looked up a water tower. Some stuff going on there. Feels like it would need all of this structure. It's water up on a thing. All right. And then of course, like there was, oh, did I get another one? No, I have this little dot here. So my brain wants to turn that into a bird, and I probably should. So I'll just do that really quickly. Now, when I do birds, I keep it super simple. So I'm just gonna do a nice simple little bird here. I'm just gonna go like this. There. And I don't want just one bird, so I'll add another one here. There we go. And maybe one more. There, nice 3 little birds there. All right, and that's it. That's our nice sunset. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tutorial. Remember, when you're painting, just have fun. If your painting turns out, you know, completely different than what you imagine it to be, that does not mean you did a bad job. That just means you're learning. And sometimes it means you did a better job, right? So no stress. Have a wonderful time painting, everyone. Thank you so much for watching my video. Like, subscribe, and if you want to see more of my artwork, you can check out my Instagram at Creations by Kendra or Facebook at Creations by Kendra. Thanks so much. Bye.